Gather around, family. My grandchildren, my children, extended family, and friends. Today we're going to focus on a beautiful chapter, Genesis chapter 24. This is where Isaac finally finds his future wife, Rebekah. I love this chapter. It's an easy chapter to enjoy, a little bit repetitive, but even that I enjoy. And again, we're trying to understand the Bible as far as it is translated correctly, beginning with our Hebrew scholar Nehemiah Gordon. He says this is the longest chapter in Genesis. One of the interesting things about this chapter is it's extremely repetitive. He says, here's what's going to happen, or no, this is what I want to happen, and this is what actually happened. And then he talks about it after the fact, about what did happen. And some of the events are described 4 times. What's interesting about this is the use of different words with each telling. The same exact event happens, and then he's remembering back how it happened, and he uses different words linguistically, and it's fascinating. And even in the English, I enjoy the repetitive nature. Some of that poetic Hebrew style bleeds through even with the English. Verse 1, and Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Jehovah had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his eldest servant of his house that ruled over all that he had, put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh. Now, Joseph Smith changes that from my thigh to my head. Put thy hand under my head. Now, here's some insights from Papa John. Based on the Joseph Smith translation, here it seems that Joseph Smith, much like the King James translators, was uncomfortable with the reference to my thigh and replaced it with my head. Or as most Gentiles, or as most of us Gentiles, we are ignorant of the customs and cultures of ancient Israel and surrounding nations, and combine that with our prudish Victorian Western mindset, we water it down to be less inappropriate to our thinking. So next, below, I realize and really appreciate Dr. Nehemiah Gordon's insights to help us understand and appreciate the significance of making a covenant. And it seems to be done in a most vulnerable yet meaningful way with total trust and respect for each other. Nehemiah Gordon says it really is a powerful image that Abraham brings forth to the oldest servant in his house, and the importance of swearing an oath. There is some significance to this. Presumably, this is a euphemism, and according to some Bible scholars, the servant put his hand on Abraham's, not his thigh, but on his family jewels, or the word thigh. But that often is a euphemism, or a polite way of saying your privates. That's one of the interpretations of under his thigh. Another example we find in Genesis 46:26, where it says, and we'll get to that soon, all the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt came out of his loins. Besides Jacob's sons, wives, and the souls were 66, which to us would mean 66. It literally says those who went out of his thigh. But they didn't come out of his thigh. They came out of his, and you know how babies are created. So he continues. So that's an expression. It's a figure of speech. Yorech, or thigh is often used euphemistically to refer to the male genitals. Now, is that the case here in verse 2 above? I don't know. That could be argued either way. In Genesis 32:25, it talks about Jacob wrestling with an angel. And when he saw that he prevailed against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. It says he touched him on the inside of his thigh, and then it talks about how immediately Jacob is limping. So suddenly, this verse becomes a more painful image. And I would add to any male or boy, that definitely changes the whole image. But let's continue. Verse 3, and I will make thee swear by Jehovah, Elohim of heaven and Elohim of earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. Verse 4, but thou shalt go into my country and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Isaac. Verse 5, and the servant said unto him, peradventure, Now, Joseph Smith changes that to perhaps, but peradventure, remember, is a King James biblical way of saying, or what if, or you know what. But basically, in this case, what if the woman will not be willing to follow me into this land? Must I needs bring thy son again into the land from whence thou camest? And verse 5, Abraham is very clear. He says, beware, or be sure that you do not take my son back there. Verse 7, Yehovah, Elohim of heaven, which took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and which spake unto me, and that sware unto me, saying, Unto thy seed will I give this land. He shall send his angel before thee, and thou shalt take a wife unto my son from thence. So he's promising that God is going to send an angel before him. Jonor Vandar from Australia says, obviously, he's saying, listen, we've made it here. We've established ourselves here. I've purchased a field. I have a cave. I've buried my wife here. I'm here where I'm meant to be. Yehovah has brought me out of the land and brought me here. There's no way we're going to start back from square one. And our Hebrew scholar Nehemiah responds, right. Look what happened with Jacob. He left to flee from his brother Esau. Probably didn't plan on staying away for all that long. Ended up staying away for 20 years and only got back by fleeing for his life. You know, once you leave, it's a difficult thing to get back. To this very day, I have a long list of friends and relatives who have had difficulty in Israel. It's a tough country to live in. And they've said, well, I'm going to go to the United States or to England or some other place for a year and I'll be back. Not one of them have ever come back. I don't think it was any different back then, is his point. And what a unique insight he has from having lived in the nation of Israel. Verse 8, and if the woman is not willing to follow, then you will be released from this covenant. Only do not take my son back there. Our Methodist minister adds this, don't let my son go back there looking for his wife. He might find some beautiful woman who says, I don't want to come. Then he'd miss out on the promise. So let's continue. Jono reads verse 9, the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. And that's a good thing. Papa John adds, knowing the type of man Abraham was, walking in obedience before God daily, it is doubtful that any hanky-panky is going on here. It appears that Abraham trusts his oldest servant, and the servant trusts him. And remember, the entire household, including the servants, were circumcised the same day that Abraham circumcised himself. Okay? So their trust for each other goes way back. That's just, okay, the covenant they established together is very important and most sacred. A covenant which seems very focused on God's promise to Abraham becoming the father of many nations. This is all about posterity in some ways. Every detail of Abraham's instructions deals with his heirs, the promised seed through Isaac, through whom future generations of Israel will flow. Also, because of this unique, close-up, and personal way, because of the close-up and personal way this covenant was entered into, I'm sure in the future, when all things are known, we will realize how somehow circumcision and this covenant tie together. After all, it is the token of the covenant. So there is logic, even though it seems very odd from where we are today. Verse 10, and the servant took 10 camels of his master and departed, for all the goods of his master were in his hands. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia unto the city of Nahor. Nehemiah Gordon says, let's look at the context here. Where was he going? He was going to what today is Iraq, which we think of as this horrible, war-torn country. But back then it was Mesopotamia, the land between the two rivers. You have two of the largest rivers in the world flowing to your north and to the south of you. It's a lush place. It's a place that is rich. It's a fertile and fertile wise. So it's very good for growing crops, raising animals. and it could be very tempting to be drawn away from this semi-arid country. They say that those who come from the desert, their paradise isn't a desert. The paradise that they dream about is a land where there's water everywhere. And that's what Mesopotamia was and is to some extent even today. I think that's why he's saying, don't let my son go there, because he's going to be tempted away, tempted to stay. And then let's go on with verse 11. And he made his camels to kneel down without the city by the well of water at the time of evening, at the time when the women go out to draw water. So now the servant has already arrived. Verse 12, I really love. O Yehovah, Elohim of my master, Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed this day, and show me kindness unto my master Abraham. That's so beautiful. Nehemiah says in English, verse 12 in the English Bible says, O Lord. The verse word is va amir. And there's an accent, a little squiggly above the meme there. The little squiggly is actually a variamor, and that's what it's called, and that's what's called. Oh my goodness, the shalit. These, I'm slaughtering the Hebrew, you guys, but just understand these words. I hope to be able to read someday, and I'm so glad they're in my Papa John notes. Someday I'm going to be able to read both the English and at least some basic Hebrew. These various accent markings have three functions. I'll give you just a brief version. One of the functions is to instruct you to how to chant or cantillate. In fact, I'll just pause here. Papa John, this is how much I know a little bit. You know, you don't realize that the word church is a Christian term. In my mind, the Jews have a church we call synagogue, and we have church we call chapels and temples. But to the Hebrew mind, they don't even have a choir, let alone a church. They have a cantor instead of a choir, and they don't sing, they chant. So this is kind of what Dr. Nehemiah Gordon is leading up to. So there's these markings to help them chant the verses as they're reading them in synagogue. The accent mark over the word varamar is a rare accent mark. I think it only appears 3 times in the Torah. And to a Hebrew, the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament. That's what we're reading right here. And this is one of those accent marks. I don't know the musical term, but it's a sound that you make that expresses anguish. It goes up and then down. So you would sing up and down, via more, via more. The point is, it's expressing extreme emotion. And I felt that as I read in English, verse 12. It's beautifully phrased. Verse 13, behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of the men, his prayer continues, the daughters of the city come out to draw water. And in prayer, verse 14, and let it come to pass that the damsel to whom I shall say, let down thy pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink, and she shall say, drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. Let the same be that she that thou hast appointed for thy servant Isaac, and thereby shall I know that thou hast showed kindness unto my master. I love that he's asking it on behalf of his master. In this sense, he's a messenger, a Malik, and he's even praying as if he is Abraham. That's powerful to me. Now, our Methodist minister says, not just the fact that there's this little squiggly line, the accent, look at how specific he prayed and how specific the answer was. I just think it's pretty powerful. The idea that the servant has been sent by Abraham, he's the oldest servant in the house, and he swore that he would do this, and he knows Abraham, and he knows that Abraham said he's going to send an angel before you. This servant is ready. He's got the camel, he's got the oath, he's got Abraham as master, the great man of God. But he's like, okay, I need something. And he looks up to the creator of the universe, and with this emotional cry, he calls to him, listen, God of my master Abraham, give me success. This is no casual prayer. This is not Sunday morning go to church prayer. This is a prayer of passion and a prayer of belief and hope. And it says, before he finishes praying the prayer, excuse me, my excitement, before he finishes praying the prayer, while still in the act of praying this prayer, here she comes. Verse 15. And it came to pass before he had done speaking that behold, Rebekah came out, whom was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. 16. And the damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin, neither had any man known her. And she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. Joseph Smith adds even more insights. And for verse 16, he says, the damsel, being a virgin, very fair to look upon, such as the servant of Abraham had not seen, neither had any man known the like unto her. And she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. Verse 17, and the servant ran to meet her and said, let me, I pray thee, drink a little water of thy pitcher. And she said, drink, my Adonai. And she hasted and let down her pitcher upon her hand and gave him drink. And when she had done giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for thy camels also, until they have done drinking. And 20, she hastened and emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran again unto the well to draw water, and drew for all his camels. Now, water in verse 19 and 20 were italicized, and I've crossed them out because in the Joseph Smith version, he understood those were filler words added by the King James translators. And so in Hebrew, it didn't include the word water because it's obvious you're drawing from a well what that liquid would be. So now, Jono from Australia. Now this is beautiful. He said, O Yehovah, Elohim of my master Abraham, please give me success this day and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, here I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your pitcher that I may drink, and she says, drink, and I will also give your camels drink. And of course, she does, as we know this, how the story goes. And this is what happens. Rivkah, and that's the Hebrew name for Rebekah, Rivkah comes out, and not only does she do that, but she goes further and says, oh, I'll get water for your camels, and I will keep getting water for your camels until they've had enough to drink. I like knowing the Hebrew name for Rebekah, Rivkah. Verse 21, and the man wondered at her, held his peace, to wit whether Jehovah had made his journey prosperous or not. And Joseph Smith said, instead of whither, says pondered in his heart whether the Lord had made his journey prosperous or not. Verse 22, and it came to pass as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring, a half a shekel of weight, and 2 bracelets from his hand of 10 shekels weight of gold. Joseph Smith changes it a little bit. Or no, when it gets to verse 23, let's just continue. 23, and he said, whose daughter art thou? Tell me, I pray thee, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge in? Verse 24, and she said unto him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare unto Nahor. And she said, moreover unto him, we have both straw and provider enough, and a room to lodge in. And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Jehovah. And he blessed, and he said, blessed be Jehovah, Elohim of my master Abraham, whom hath not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth. I being in the way, Jehovah led me to the house of my master's brethren. Joseph Smith adds, who has not left my master destitute of his mercy. Verse 28, and the damsel ran and told them of his mother's house these things. Joseph Smith clarifies, to the house, and told her mother these things. Verse 29, and Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man unto the well. And it came to pass that when he saw the earrings and bracelet upon his sister's hands, And when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, Thus spake the man unto me, that he came unto the man, and behold, he stood by the camels at the well. Verse 32. And he said, Come in, thou blessed of Jehovah, wherefore standest thou without? For I have prepared the house and the room for the camels. And the man came into the house. And they keep saying the man, but this is the eldest or oldest servant for Abraham. And he ungirded his camels and gave straw and provider for his camels and water to wash his feet and the men's feet that were with him. So everyone now has clean feet after the long journey. When he says ungirded his camels, Joseph Smith changes that to unburdened his camels. I suppose both of those understandings or translations would be just help with our clarity of understanding. Verse 33, and there was set meat before him to eat, but he said, I will not eat until I have told my errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant, and Jehovah hath blessed my master greatly, and he has become great, and he hath given me flocks and herds and silver and gold, and men servants and maidservants, camels and asses. And Sarah, my master's wife, bare a son to my master, when she was old, and unto him hath he given all that he hath. So that's basically saying Isaac is already the heir, and he's given all responsibility to Isaac as far as being the steward over all of this. And Abraham, I love that he's planning ahead. He's passing the torch. He's got to find a good wife, a believer, part of the family, part of the faith. Um, Let me continue. Verse 37, and my master made me swear, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I dwell, but thou shalt go into my father's house and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son. And I said unto my master, Peradventure, and Joseph Smith changes that to perhaps, the woman will not follow me. Verse 40, you can start to sense the repeating of the story. And he said unto Jehovah, before whom I walk will send his angel with thee and prosper thy way, and thou shalt take a wife for my son of my kindred and of my father's house. Verse 41, then shalt thou be clear from this my oath when thou comest to my kindred, and if thou will give not thee one, thou shalt be clear from my oath. But here the servant, before he's even willing to eat, wants to finish what he's committed to do as he made that oath covenant with his master. Verse 42, and I came this day unto the well, and Jehovah Elohim of my master Abraham, if now thou do prosper my ways which I go. Behold, I stand by the well of water, and it shall come to pass that when the virgin cometh forth to draw water, and I say to her, Give me, I pray thee, a little water of thy pitcher to drink. And if she say to me, Both drink thou, and I will draw also for thy camels, let the same be the woman whom Jehovah hath appointed out for my master's son. And before I had done speaking in my heart, behold, Rivkah, came forth with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down unto the well and drew water. And notice the water is italicized. So she drew from the well. That's what it would have said in Hebrew. And I said unto her, Let me drink, I pray thee. And she made haste and let down her pitcher from her shoulder and said, Drink. You'll notice shoulder is italicized. She just let down her pitcher. They know where it was. If she let it down, it was on her shoulder. They're, they know their culture. It's only foreign to us. She said, Drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. So I drank, and she made the camels drink also. And I asked her and said, Whose daughter art thou? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bare unto him. And I put the earring upon her face. Now, Joseph Smith says, and it sounds better with Joseph Smith's help, and I gave the earring unto her to put into her ears, and the bracelets upon her hands. Verse 48, and I bowed down my head and worshipped Jehovah, and blessed Jehovah, Elohim of my master Abraham, which, and Joseph Smith changes that to who, had laid me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter unto his son. And now, if ye, and Joseph Smith says, if thou wilt deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to my right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, the thing proceedeth forth from Jehovah. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, Rivkah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as Jehovah hath spoken. And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he worshipped Jehovah, bowing himself to the earth. And you notice bowing himself is italicized. They didn't say that in Hebrew because worshiping Jehovah, it's obvious he would be bowing himself to the earth. 53, and the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment and gave to Rivkah. He gave also to her brother and her mother precious things. And they did eat and drink, and he and the men that were with him, and tarried all night. And they rose up in the morning, and he said, send me away unto my master. And her brother and mother said, let the damsel abide with us a few days, at least 10. After that, she shall go. Joseph Smith tries to clarify a little bit. It helps that let the damsel abide with us at least 10 days. After that, she can go. Now, our Jonah Van Door from Australia says 10 seems to be a significant number here. What do we make of that? Nehemiah Gordon, I have an explanation. We have 10 fingers, and that makes for very easy counting to 10, especially for people who didn't know how to read and write. Whenever you want to throw out a number, that is not a precise number, but you want to say a lot or many, you just say 10. I think that's why they said, do you want to stay with us? And the verse literally says they said yamaim, which is days. And in Hebrew, o asor, meaning 10. The days could have been 2, 3. It's undefined, perhaps as many as 10. I don't think they necessarily literally meant 10. They just meant a whole bunch. In the same way that today we might say, several days. Verse 56, and he said unto them, hinder me not, seeing Jehovah hath prospered my way. Send me away that I may go unto my master. He wants to get back. He's accomplished what he came to do. But imagine, they probably want to benefit from his generosity some more, I'm sure. Verse 57, and they said, will we call the damsel and inquire? We will call the damsel and inquire at her mouth. And then they called Rivkah, and said unto her, wilt thou go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent Rivkah their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Rivkah and said unto her, thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gate of those who hate thee. Wow. Jonah Van Door, and they blessed Rivkah and said unto her, our sister, may you become the mother of thousands and tens of thousands. This is beautiful. And may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate you. Isn't that beautiful? This is just brilliant. I could almost hear his British/Australian accent. Verse 61, and Rebekah arose and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels and followed the man, and the servant took Rebekah and went his way. And Isaac came, the very next verse. They just left on the journey, and now in verse 62, we are now with Isaac. And Isaac came from the way of the well, Lahoyaru, for which he dwelt in the south country. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the eventide. And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, the camels coming. Now Isaac, the word la rush means to speak or to discuss. So Nehemiah Gordon's helping us understand, presumably, he's not just meditating, he's talking to God. There are different words for prayer. This is one of them. He's out in the field and he's speaking to or with God. I wonder if he's out there asking, when am I going to have a wife? He doesn't realize something's happening already. he's not aware that God is already working on his behalf, because the promise he gave to Abraham is going to continue through Isaac, and he's going to have this wife sooner than he thinks. And he lifted his eyes. It's powerful. And I agree. Then he says, Isaac is 40 years old when this happens. Verse 64. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted off the camel. And she said unto the servant, What man is this that walketh in the field to meet us? And the servant said, It is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. She's covered her face. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. And Jonah Vandor says, This is so beautiful. And I just have to agree. I've already read that verse. Verse 67. And Isaac brought her to his mother's Sarah's tent. And he took Rivkah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Now think about that. Sarah's tent is still set up. It's still there. And Isaac took her to his mother's tent. Unfortunately, Sarah didn't meet Rivkah. Our Australian scholar Jono says, And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her to his mother Sarah's tent. And he took Rivkah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So he's repeating what I just read in the King James Version. Now our Methodist minister adds, As a preacher, I've always been overwhelmed by this. I remember the first time I did a ceremony. You mean I can just say a few words, and these words actually mean that you're going to be married, and then you sign this paper, and so there's words and paper. What's going on here, Nehemiah? When Nehemiah says, well, the way you married someone in biblical times is you made it known to the community. This is my wife. And then you want to consummate the marriage. That's how you married someone in biblical times. That was marriage. They didn't have a marriage license, obviously. There are definitely words. In this case, the words took place in Mesopotamia with her family and her agreeing to come. And when this was explained to Isaac by the servant, and once everyone knew this was the woman he's going to marry, the only thing left to do was consummate the marriage. And that's why he's taking her to his mother's tent. Wow. My last comment, it's just so fast, this story, compared to when Isaac and Abraham were going towards the altar on Mount Moriah. It seemed the storyline went so slow. But Papa John, they're mitzchakin, or the mitzach, I can't say it, but they're playing around, but appropriately in a married way, not inappropriately, as the Hebrew scholars told us that, that Isaac had been abused by his older brother Ishmael using the same word, but that was inappropriate. This is all legitimate and legal in their culture. What a beautiful story. Thanks again for joining me for this episode of Papa John's Scripture Notes. Until the next episode, just continue to study and be a good example, like I say always, of the believers. Be kind, be thoughtful, and we'll talk to you again soon.